So okay, so we have 16 people now watching. So just wait for a couple of minutes and then we will start. Right. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, just post in the uh if you have any question, just post it in the chat, YouTube comment chat. We will take your question from there, and then we can start. So just we only take the question from YouTube comments. So if Facebook, I will check if there, and I will just post it here, and then we can share it back. If it's too many questions, and then we figure out something. So, and I'm leaving to the speakers to ask any questions, everything. So, hello Hakim. So good to see you. You're awake now. Hopefully you had dinner, everything. And let me give a couple of seconds. So, let me. We have now it's 8:18. So by 8:20, I will start. If any question again, guys, please post in the comment. Just waiting for one more minute. Okay. Okay. So guys, so let's start. We have about like 20 plus people now. So I'm just gonna start now, and welcome to the 23rd of DevOps Meetup 20 edition. So we're gonna the idea is for entire year of 2020 due to the situation that we all are stuck with. Thanks to so we have to do it online. So even they allow the crowd together, we do a meetup, uh, and allow meetups in a location like up to 250 people with a proper SOP or without proper SOP and stuff. But we and or personally me, I don't think I will want to do it. We're gonna keep it online until at least end of the year and see how the situation is and probably revisit again towards the next year. So in the meanwhile, we will test out a couple of formats, see what's interesting, what's you guys like. So we really want your feedback. So come and talk to us or ping us in a Slack or Facebook Messenger, anywhere that you guys want to do it. We open. We just keep it casual. Don't be so serious about it. The speakers are friendly, so they won't eat you or roast you. So we're trying to learn from each other and stuff. For today, so let's just start with we have two speakers. Fortunately, and very fortunately, because quite rare to get two speakers usually, and it's like and the both of them are very experienced in their own field. GCP and AWS. So if any question, just throw in the comments and then we will asking. Yes, so one question for Hakim. So I will take it up later on to answer that, and keep bringing the questions. And anything related to DevOps topic, GCP, AWS, or is it gonna start the conversation of AWS versus GCP? If you don't want to do it, do it. Everyone have their own opinion, but each to their own purpose. Each to their own opinion. So don't bite shit and stuff. So let me start the slide. First one. First is the two speakers. First title is GitOps with Cloudbuild on GCP. Cloudbuild is pretty good tool. So like you want to automate some stuff on the push it to deployment and production. So you can check it out with Jonathan. So ask him. He's a very good. He's a professional cloud architect for GCP as well. And second one is Sharuzzaman. Zaman. So you can call him Zaman. He's exploring AWS Cloudwatch with Metrics Math. Don't worry, I will intro them again with the full bio, everything. Meanwhile, you guys can go and stalk them or Facebook or whatever. Just Google it or LinkedIn. So anyway, so that in the entire thing, right? The community is all started by by volunteers. We don't get paid. We don't get anything. We spend our own time to do this. So we are open to any suggestion. We are friendly. Tell us what you want, and we try to bring it to you. No promises. So, and if you go to the Meetup groups in Slack channel, if you go to Engineers MI, just join the group, Slack group, and ping in Meetup. So anywhere, some of us will approach and talk to you. So we are all like just trying to help each other to grow and learn and make the attack community better. And we grow from there, right? After a while, you can't grow alone. Right? We need the entire. So and you can check out other DevCami meetup. Other tech meetups in KL, like KL Jazz is happening tomorrow, so you can check it out. So you can go to Facebook Kuala Lumpur JS, one word, search for that, and then there's an event going on tomorrow, Alex. So you can join that as well. Like Dara is joining that, I think. She's have a data background, so you probably want to ask her a lot of questions. And we have Junior Dev Malaysia, so there's one Junior Dev Malaysia event going to happen in supposed to happen next week, but postponed to early of next month. So I'll keep you posted. And Umaniko and many more events like Golang as well. Something big is they are planning. So coming soon for you guys, like probably a very talented speaker or very interesting speaker for you guys for Golang. So for any other meetups that you guys want to talk or listen to or interested in, just go to devkami.com/meetups. So the calendar is there. And then just click join for any of it. Remember that whenever you join an event like on Meetup page, especially, if you click going, then only the link will be visible for you to join the meetups. And simple house rules, no minimal bike shading. We allow bike shading, but very minimal. And I will remove you if I don't like it. So the best part of online is I have full control, dictatorship to the best. So, but yeah, and be participate. Try to engage with speakers. Try to engage with me. Try to have a conversation. Try to see what's a good thing, what's a bad thing, what's the current industry. What's if you're confused, you need some help, or like whatever it is, right? Or you want to be sponsored, or you want to volunteer. You find a move, make a career move. Anything, just bring it up to us. The committee will help you out. And this is an online edition, so we're still going to continue the bus corner. This is the best part of DevOps, right? The bus corner, like everyone like bus corner. Every time I do a feedback form, right, I get a best part for this bus corner. Like, so I probably like planning something for that. Oh shit! Someone asked a very good question. You want to be in a dev or? Let me show you this. You want to be in a dev or ops? Nah. I'm gonna hide this for now. So, all right, and last time you used to be in like a team, Google Meet or Microsoft Team, so you have to meet yourself like every time, like as usual, like how it works is, right? And I also know like online, as usual, all tech companies have a lot of online meetings, Zoom, whatever, Team, Google Meet, many tools. And what you guys do is just join, run it, but actually you're doing something else, not focusing, just listening to it. That's up to you. But if you have time, just try to engage and get engaged with a comment or talk to each other, like whatever, right? Try to get engaged and give us feedback. We actually welcome much feedback from you guys so we can grow and learn more for you guys. And next, the bus corner. So if you notice, there's Honeycode. If you don't know that Honeycode is by AWS, it's a codeless app application. There's Pearl 7 announcement, Pay.com, Chinese app banned in India. So I'm just going to click on the honeycode for now. So I'm just going to, let me try this. So yeah, how to exit the full screen. Okay, let me click on this so you guys know better about what I'm talking about. So hello world, someone said. Okay, cool. Think do something. Need to sharing the thoughts and sharing. And my internet, I think, is quite shitty too. So please bear with me. 5 minutes. I'm gonna make it very quick. So I'm sharing a screen now. Mm. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about, the honey code. So you can know what's like the web and mobile app without writing code. Everything is a beta stage. Go check it out. Like whether you guys want to use it or not. Like I touched it out, quite nice, but I still prefer the Google App Sheet for now. You can Google App Sheet is much better, I guess, like compared to this. And other than that, back to the slide, I'm going to talk announcing Pearl 7. You can read that up as well. And then hey.com. So hey.com is an email launched by DHS, right? So there's a lot of drama around going around this, like better experience, user privacy, guaranteed everything. So yeah, I actually have 2 invites. So if anyone wants it, ping me. I might provide. I might give to you. Provide. See how. Subject to my whether I want to give it or not. So yeah, just check it out. And if you're not sure about aware of the Chinese app, yeah, there are a lot of Chinese app are banned in India. So if you're using Alibaba, be cautious. Maybe your application is affected as well. Alibaba is the DNS I meant. So TikTok all is banned. And also Apple announces a Apple Quick Start program. So let me open the link as well for this. So meanwhile I talk here. And then there's a tiny framework for building web frame. I'm gonna open this. You can check it out. All these are actually shared in by the committee itself in the Bus Corner Slack group. So you can talk about that. And TM have now partnering with Huawei for the one cloud. So we're gonna finally have a proper cloud in base in Malaysia itself. I don't know, man. But considering that Huawei have a lot of issue with US and stuff, so that's another issue that you want to check it out, like whether it's worth it or not. Other than that, Alibaba actually have a data center in Malaysia too, so that should be interesting to watch. And this is what another one I was telling you about, Hyper App. So Hyper App is like a tiny web framework that someone shared as well. So if you need a framework, check it out. Okay, my internet is shitty. I need to remember. So yeah, you can check it out. Security, if you need to code a bit, right, so you can check it out. This Hyper app. I actually find it quite interesting. Yeah, very simple and quite fast to do it. And then going back to the universal start program, it's not involved Malaysian, so unless you have a Singapore account or US, you can use this. And I think you have to pay for that too. So yes, so basically you have everything what you need for the new Mac OS. So and you can see it's a transition silicon, create, beta software tool, everything. It's just one all-in-one kind of tool, but obviously you have to pay for it. And it's as usual not available in Malaysia as well, unless you have a US or Singapore account. Probably can test it out, try it out. And also Apple finally officially obsolete the first MacBook Pro that introduced, MacBook with the Retina, which is I'm still using it. I mean, I'm not using that one currently. That's why it's probably shitty. So I'm using it as a backup MacBook. So it's pretty awesome. Never ever sell that. It's pretty valuable. That's the only MacBook that you can actually still change your hard disk, everything except for RAM. So keep it. It's valuable. And continue on. Slack had a down day, so I'm gonna check that as well for you guys. Flutter app is now can be used for Linux, so you can push deploy to using the Linux. And Tsunami, so Google actually open sourcing Tsunami. So Tsunami is a extendable network scanner, so basically a security tool. So if you're interested, you can check it out as well. There's Google Tsunami, but I think of course they open source it, right? But it won't be so much. I think this is still new, so if you're interested, you can explore around, play around with it, see whether it suits you or not. And Amazon also introduced a Copilot. And I'm just opening up. And of course, Skype co-founder dies, sadly. So unfortunately, I mean nowadays a lot of people are dying, man. Like even with the virus and everything. So 2020 pretty much can delete, erase from your whatever it is, right? If you notice, iOS have issues recently. So this regarding the Facebook releasing a Facebook sign-in, single sign-on thing. So someone deployed something and the code went wrong. So a lot of people code application was affected by it. I can click on it, you can check it out. It's actually related to GitHub. I don't know whether they still do it, it's still there or not, so I can just sharing it. And Google announced its new confidential computing with confidential VM, I mean Bastion host, whatever, right, last time, but now this is very confidential, like private kind of server, a bit private secure. So you can check it out, and I'm not gonna go so much on that. And Cloudflare again expanding more, but at the same time, sadly, they also like going down. The outage took down a lot of political Shopify. That's like they actually released a good post-mortem report on that, so you might want to go read about it. But Cloudflare seems to be having a lot of issue lately. But overall, I still think it's one of the best out there. Still the easiest UI, easiest to set it up, easier to use compared to other service provider. They are just again, this is just my personal opinion. So Cloudflare, if you want to pay me, can pay me also. So and let me go back to a slide. So this article is pretty cool. Like it's actually describe a technical problem that caused downtime on Mesh 12, like every single things. If you want to know, I'm gonna say that what happened, everything, the detail one. I'm just gonna open the summary for you guys. So basically, the scale up to every ender, blah blah shit. Basically, the failure to get back everything, and yeah, this is what they did. But infrastructure stress, I said, this is the cause of it. Why everything you want to know? Go back here, the media, read about it. If you want a link, it's in the bus corner on Slack. Or you can just Google a terrible, horrible, not good, bad day at Slack. And status side and Copilot is done. I think this is the last one. I'm very keeping the bus corner very simple today. Copilot, you can check it out. How to employ everything. It's pretty straightforward. It's just a new stuff released by AWS. I think the rate of AWS releasing stuff pretty much, I don't know how many stuff they have now. So if you know every single things, yes. All right. So I'm pretty much go back to the slide. If anyone anything else want to share new stuff, can put in the Slack or put in a comment as well. I can share it out. So now we're gonna bring the first speaker out. So if you want to know the first speaker, who's the guy is, like who's this handsome guy, or which is the GCP guy. If you want to roast him about why AWS is better than GCP, go ahead as well. So introducing you, Jonathan. Jonathan is a consultant at Belian Tech, his own one. He has more than 8 years of professional software development experience. He used purely Google. His tutor is like just talk about Google stuff. He criticizes and also at the same time talk good things about GCP. So you can ask him anything related to GCP. He will very happy to answer to you. But whether he gonna charge you for that or not, that's a different story. I don't know about that. So that's between you and him. So let me add him to the stream. So hi Jonathan. So are you ready for it? So you're gonna carry on. So just intro yourself and just carry on. Meanwhile, guys, I saw some questions coming up. I'll keep it to the end for these kind of questions when we bring it out. So I'm gonna pass it to Jonathan. So Jonathan, I'm sharing your screen. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. I'm assuming everyone can hear me and see my title slide. And actually, it's my first time in DevOps Malaysia. Well, I haven't actually attended in person. I don't think I've attended in person, and neither have I attended a virtual one. So, hi, it's nice to meet everyone. And if I'm doing something wrong, please be kind because it's my first time here. Okay, I'm just going to talk about cloud build mainly. I don't know why I put GitOps, mainly because we'll talk about GitOps later. That's my Twitter handle at Enxiong, and that's my blog. So the goal of the talk today is to perhaps familiarize you with cloud build, and for the time or when and if you will deploy stuff to Google Cloud. So using cloud build only makes the most sense when you're using Google Cloud. So hopefully today's talk will be a primer to help you get started. And secondly, another minor goal of the talk is to make you good at cloud build, but probably you will need more hands-on for that. So there's this term in the title of my talk. It's called GitOps. What exactly is GitOps? So the top Google result says that GitOps is a way to do Kubernetes cluster management and application delivery. So honestly, I did not even look up the definition of GitOps before giving the title of this talk, because I just infer from the word GitOps that somehow it has to do with changing your infrastructure based on the code or configuration that you push into a Git repository. So maybe there's a divergence in the definition, but I think there's also a great overlap. And basically, we're going to use Cloud Build today to basically listen to your Git repos and then trigger stuff. It's somewhat like your Bitbucket pipeline or your GitHub Actions. So Cloud Build is the version of those things in GCP. So Cloud Build is the serverless CI/CD solution in GCP. It's not really a Jenkins because it's serverless. It's managed for you. And it features, well, you can basically just use the gcloud commands in Cloud Build. You can deploy to GCP, and in theory and in practice, probably you can also deploy to any other cloud provider. And you can set up triggers to listen to your GitHub or your Bitbucket or Cloud Source repository. I'm not sure who uses Cloud Source repository to trigger a build. And there's also privacy controls to ensure that only certain people can see the builds, only certain people can create the builds, etc. So some marketing, if you want to believe what Google puts on their marketing page, Cloud Build is the best. It has the strongest strategy. It has the strongest current offering. Maybe not so much the strongest market presence, but that's why I'm here to talk about it. So according to Forrester, Cloud Build is coming out swinging, going toe-to-toe with other cloud giants, relatively new, a lot to prove, and they did so. That's pretty strong statement from Forrester. And if you have used other tools before, maybe after this, you can tell us whether this is a fair statement or not. So before I talk about Cloud Build more, let's talk a bit about container registry. So I think every cloud has some registry where you will keep your containers. And of course, there's the free one in Docker Hub. So container registry is where you build your containers and the images will be stored in container registry. As usual, you start off with a Docker file, and then you build an image from the Docker file, and then somehow you will upload it to container registry. And it usually starts with the URL gcr.io/project ID. Project ID is the Google Cloud project ID, and the image name. So when we talk about Cloud Build, the Docker file is still very relevant. We are not doing away with the Docker file. Yes, Docker file is still around. So gcr.io/myprojectid means that the image is only accessible within that project by default, or any other project that you give access to this particular project image. And I should point out that while we are going to talk about container registry today, container registry is actually going to be replaced by artifact registry, which is the next generation of container registry, which is now in beta. If you're starting out today, you might want to take a look at artifact registry instead. And really, the only difference is instead of gcr.io, it becomes region name.pkg.dev. And that's pretty much the only difference when it comes to cloud build. Your container URLs are different. That's it. Okay, so yeah, we talk about cloud build. It's mostly configuration, right? The details are all in the configuration. So the magic file name or the convention file name is cloudbuild.yaml. I don't think it's anything magical about cloudbuild.yaml. It's just the convention for this file. And you can see that cloudbuild.yaml has a bunch of steps, and every step points and refers to a image, the image that points to gcr.io or something else. So every step runs a container, basically. It takes a container image and it runs that container. And once it's done, it moves on to the next step. It takes that container image and it runs that container. So the thing you see here in bold, gcr.io/cloud-builders/docker, these things are called cloud builders. And there is a cloud builders project, which is open source on GitHub. It hosts all the CLI tools that back up these images, Maven, Docker, etc. So every step you see here runs within its own container. And the only thing that persists across the steps is the workspace directory, the /workspace directory. So if you have one step one, you create a file and you leave it in workspace, the step 2 will actually see that file. All right. So the only things that persist across the steps is the files. In this slide, I'm just trying to say you can set environment variables at a step level. So in this step, we can set the compute zone, the container cluster, and that's how we do it. Quick and easy. A list of key values. All right, sometimes it's just very cumbersome to provide the Docker image name and then the argument. Sometimes you want to break out into a bash mode or some other entry point. Use some other entry point other than the default Docker file entry point. And you can just use this. Let's say for the second one, entry point bash, you can just break into bash mode and start writing bash scripts. And it's very convenient when, YAML is just a pain sometimes. So using entry point bash gives you an alternative to keep your sanity. And if you see here, I have a pointer. If you see here, Ubuntu here doesn't actually have a gcr.io domain image name. And this means that it refers to the Docker Hub image instead of the image from Cloud Builders in GCP. You can also set the timeout for the entire build, which is here is 20 seconds. And QTTL is basically the amount of time where the build can be waiting before it starts. So 10 seconds. So if you launch the build and the build does not start executing within 10 seconds, the build will fail with a status of expired. That's what QTTL means. In practice, I rarely use this QTTL thing, but yeah, these are the options. If you want to customize where Cloud Build stores all the logs, you can provide a logs bucket. Otherwise, you'll just store it in a default bucket to store your build logs. You can also tag your builds so that your builds are all easily searchable within the Cloud Console. Okay, let's talk a bit about default substitutions. And maybe all that I'm saying here is not going to make sense until I show you a demo, which is coming soon, so bear with me, guys and girls. So default substitutions are basically environment variables that come predefined. When you run your build, when you start your build, the environment variables are all there, and it's all populated with some values that would make sense. Project ID would be your Google Cloud project. Build ID would be the ID of the build. If you are using a trigger, and we'll see shortly what a trigger is, then you will get a few more substitutions. The commit SHA, the revision ID, which is basically the commit SHA, and the short version of the commit SHA, first 7 characters, the repository name, the branch name, the tag name. And if you're using GitHub app triggers. So this is GitHub specific. You even get things like hit branch, base branch, hit repo URL, PR number. So as of today, if you want to use Cloud Build to run your pull requests, only GitHub can do it. GitLab and Bitbucket does not support these triggers for now for pull requests. And of course, you can also define your own environment variables or your own user-defined substitutions. And as long as it starts with an underscore, you are free to define anything you like. So underscore sub value, point it to some hard-coded value like that. So this will serve as the default value, but you can override this in your trigger or in your command line. And another example here is this pretty cool. I think this was added quite recently. So within your user-defined substitution, you can actually do your interpolation here like that. And you can refer to both the default substitutions and the user-defined substitutions. And by default, if you define something here, or if you use something here, and you don't define it here, the build is just going to fail if you don't define it upfront somehow, either here or in the trigger or in command line. If you define this and if you use it and it's not defined, it will just fail. So substitution option allows the build to pass even though things are not defined, basically. All right. And then in addition to that, and there's probably a lot more, I'm just trying to cover most ground here. So this is options at the global level. It's not under a step, as you can see. Options. You can set environment variable for all the steps. If you define key one here, key one will be available in all the steps. Secret environment is basically environment variables that refer to a secret. We'll talk about that later. And if you do this here, it will expose the secret to all the steps. Volumes here will be volumes that are Docker volumes, and they will be available to all the steps as well. You can actually customize the machine type if you somehow need to do more intensive stuff in your build. And you can also adjust the disk size. Usually, you don't have to adjust any of this. Most of the time, you're not doing anything fancy, but there are options here. Log streaming option. I actually don't remember what this is. Logging GCS only means that it will only log to cloud storage, and it will not log to the GCP's default logging solution. And substitution option, we just talked about it. So what's the use of a build tool when you can't store artifacts? So in order to store artifacts, we can define an artifacts key here in the YAML file and a subkey objects. And we point to a location that points to a cloud storage bucket. And we point to all the files, paths to all the files that you want to store in the bucket. So that's how you store one or more non-container artifacts in cloud storage. And besides files, artifacts can also be images. And up to now, using container registry, of course, you need to build the image first. And then if you define an images key in the YAML file and you point to that image, Cloud Build will automatically push that image to this image URL. And it will also make that image available in the build results. So having this images key does two things. It pushes the image to the container registry, and it shows it in the build results. So alternatively, you can also manually do a Docker push in one of your steps. And this is useful when you want to use that container immediately. You want to use it right now within the same build. So you would just do Docker push within one of the steps. And if you want the image to appear in the build results as well, you can also specify images, and then it will just show it in the build results. But that's mostly cosmetic, I think. So yeah, if you need to push and store images as part of the build flow, you can also do this. Cloud builders. So everything we saw earlier, all the cloud builders / Docker, they are all cloud builders, and there are multiple types of cloud builders, and they're basically the common tools that we use to build stuff. Your CLI in your local environment. They're container images that do one thing well, one tool really well. So they come in 4 flavors. They are, publicly available ones, supported images, community, and write your own builder. We'll take a look. Of course, publicly available ones are the ones that are publicly available from Docker Hub. So if you find something on Docker Hub that works well, just use it. For example, this Ubuntu image. The supported images from Cloud Build are supported by the Cloud Build team that is part of the Cloud Build product. So, for example, GCRIO / Cloud Builder / npm / Docker, all the most important and most used stuff that you would expect to have from a cloud build, from a build tool, they are supported here. For those things that are not so well supported, not so commonly used, there is an open source repository of cloud builders from the community. And in this case, the images are not pre-built. You can't just grab the gcr.io URL and start running your steps. Instead, you have to download the repository, build the image locally, and then push it to your own project's container registry for your own consumption. All right, it's very easy to do, but it's just a chore that I don't enjoy. So hopefully you don't have to do this. So for example, Docker Compose, things like Packer and Helm, you will need to use this Cloud Builders community in order to get your builder. And finally, of course, you can write your own builder, and it's useful for doing whatever fancy stuff you can imagine, caching stuff, pre-building from source, downloading source code or packages from elsewhere. Maybe the download process takes too long. It takes 1 hour to download your dependencies. So you can write a custom builder that has all the dependencies ready to go, and then just run that, right? So for example, like something like that. So a quick example of how to write a custom builder. You have a Docker file, and you want to create a custom builder that prints your IP to a file and echoes it out. So this is the Docker file. And then you would just run gcloud build submit, and with a tag, basically in the directory with this Docker file, and somehow your container image will be available in container registry immediately. And then you can start using your container image in a build step, and it will print out the IP. So this is just a very basic example. You can write your own builder. So next thing I want to talk about is trigger. And a trigger automatically starts a build when you push to your branch, or you create a new tag and push the tag to your GitHub or anything like that. So overview, you would push code to a branch or push your tag to the cloud, to your repository. And right now, the only supported repos are GitHub, Bitbucket, and CloudSource repositories. Although I think GitLab could work, but the hack is yours, right? You can do your own research, but probably you're on your own, right? Cloud Build Trigger will listen to changes in these repositories and execute the build. And somehow in your build steps, you will do fancy stuff like push to Cloud Run, deploy to App Engine, deploy to GKE or Compute Engine, or run migrations on Cloud SQL. So all the fun stuff will be in the cloudbuild.yaml file. And basically, this is my GitOps proposition to you. This is how Cloud Build does GitOps. Everything starts from your repository, code change, Cloud Build trigger, execute the build, and voila, your infrastructure is changed by Cloud Build for you. All right, so time for the demo. How much time do you have? Some time. Okay, so the demo is not going to be a fake demo. It's going to be somewhat real. We're going to deploy a Ruby on Rails application on Google Cloud. And we're even going to run migration during the cloud build. All right. So within the build itself, we're going to somehow connect to Cloud SQL and run the migration. And then, as you know, Rails 6 or 5, I don't know when it started, but Rails 6 has a master key. And without the master key, your app is basically useless. So we're going to use Cloud KMS to retrieve and decrypt the encrypted master key in Cloud Build itself. And this is the high-level overview of what we're going to try to achieve. It's basically a more specific version of the diagram we saw earlier. All right. So I already have running here. Let's just take a look at the app, right? So this is actually one of my short-lived side projects. Techjobs.my was supposed to crawl all the tech jobs in Malaysia from all the top tech companies, but it's just not alive right now. But it's alive here for the demo. And I seeded the data with some jobs from CoinGecko where I worked before. So they are actually hiring for these 2 roles. Check it out. And a detail view. So that is the application. A legitimate Ruby installs with Yarn. Because Rails only uses Yarn, you can't use npm without shooting yourself in the foot. Copy your files, your gem, the things that would change, gem file, up, and the dependencies in package JSON, and run the gem install and the bundle install, and then you copy the main application, and then you want to run the rig assets precompile, and all the stuff that you can probably copy from some blog posts. All right, yeah. Let's be honest. Okay, and okay, the most important part is actually run the container, right? Bundle exec Rails server production at the port. So port here is kind of important because I'm using Cloud Run. So if you define, we're going to use the port environment variable, which is set by Cloud Run. Database YAML will be very familiar to most of you using Rails. The most interesting part is the production one. So database name is self-explanatory. Username, password is going to come from the encrypted YAML, encrypted file that Rails has. It's going to be committed into the Git repo. And Cloud SQL socket is a very Cloud SQL specific configuration. So basically, Cloud Run will be talking to Cloud SQL via a Cloud SQL proxy. And using this proxy, we don't actually have to care about SSL certificates and all that. So just by providing the Cloud SQL socket, we have access to our database securely. And of course, the most important part of deploying Rails is the cloud build. So I guess I have already created a master key, encrypted master key. Okay, I'm not going to click this. Encrypted master key, which is the encrypted version of the master key. So I have already used a key called Rails master key in the key ring called techjobs-my-rails. All right. This is Cloud KMS. Basically, I created a key. I encrypted the master key and outcomes master key.enc, and then commit it to my repository. So in this case, I am reversing the process. I am decrypting using Cloud KMS. I'm decrypting the encrypted master key, and I'm asking it to create the master key, the plain text version. And I'm using the key that I used earlier to encrypt. All right, very simple. So here, no master key in environment variable, right? I know it's very tempting. I like to do that as well. Just try not to. Okay, so this is what you would usually do to build your image. Docker build and tag it with the URL that you want to build, and then push it to container registry. So this is the usual way, but so these two steps can be optimized with this step over here. I'm using this Kaneko cache thing. So if you use this Kaneko cache image and create the same URL you saw earlier, it will cache all these steps while creating your Docker file. So it will save a lot of minutes every time you want to build your Ruby on Rails application. You change only one line of code. You don't have to download all the Debian Ubuntu dependencies all over again. So using this cache, and setting the cache to true with a time, maybe you want to put this much longer. 3 hours is kind of short. You will save a lot of time on your build. So some people say, wow, Ruby on Rails on Cloud Build, deploying it takes so long. Yes, it's very long because you're using this, right? So cache your builds and it'll be really fast. So in the next step over here, I am just basically grabbing some whatever container that is light, and I'm downloading the Cloud SQL proxy, just like that, and making it executable. And I don't know whether this is kind of a hack, right? I just want to run migration in the steps. So get my Docker container, change the entry point, and then just do bash. Start the proxy, point it to my Cloud SQL instance. Okay, sleep maybe, and then do my Rails DB migrate. All right. So far this has worked well for me. The migration will fail in the build step, and it's not going to be a live thing. You don't have to. If it fails in live, then you don't. Yeah, you basically have your migration part of a step. And the last thing is only one command to deploy it to Cloud Run, gcloud run deploy your service name, the image URL. These things are probably optional the first time, and you can also specify project ID if you like. Otherwise, it's probably going to be default anyway. So just like that, we have automated our Rails deployment. And why don't I trigger a build first so that you can see? So let's make things interesting. Okay, techjobs.my for DevOps Malaysia. And I'm going to just commit this. Okay, dummy change, and then I'm going to push it. And hopefully we will see the logo in the website. And if we come back here, I hope that it will trigger the build. And yeah, pushing to this branch called build debug, triggered a new build, and it's doing all the fancy stuff that I walked you through earlier in cloudbuild.yaml. But while we're waiting for this to happen, let's take a look at the trigger. So the trigger here is you can name it whatever you like. It's pointing to a branch. It listens on the branch event. So pushing to a branch will trigger this trigger, and you can provide a regex of what branches you want to listen on, and then you can point it to most likely you want to point it to a cloudbuild.yaml configuration, although you can also directly specify a Docker file. And you can actually also override whatever variables that you have defined. I don't know, user, maybe if db user, and you can change that if you like. If Yeah, so anyway, I'm not using any of that right now. So that's basically all there is to a trigger. Most tricky part is connecting to a repository. That's a one-time operation. And then you can create a trigger, name, description, and then you get to select the repository that you have connected to. And in this case, there's only one. So if we go back to the build earlier, hopefully we are... Okay, so step one has completed by now, which is pretty fast. Usually step one takes a long time. And we can see that it's checking for cache layer. It's kind of small maybe. So using the Kaneko cache, we can speed up. It found cache layer and it sped things up a lot. So try to use that. What are we doing on time? Okay, we're not doing so good on time. So let's keep going. All right, securing builds. Basically, you should try to use stuff like Secret Manager. Secret Manager is like Cloud KMS, but you don't actually have to know anything about keys. You go there, you create the key value of key to API, password, whatever, and you just refer to that secret by name and try to download it and then use it. So that Secret Manager, it's been out more recently than Cloud KMS. Cloud KMS, we just saw earlier that you would just use something like this. You will need to refer to a key, and you can actually do this. Put your encrypted password right here, point it to a key, and then define your secret environment in your step, and that would make the decrypted password available to your step. All right, so that's how Cloud KMS and Cloud Build work closely together. This double $ here is basically, if you don't put $, Cloud Build will just do all the interpolation up front and you will get nothing here, basically. So $, will preserve your environment variable. So we need it here because we want to refer to it in the command. All right, if you're familiar with Google Cloud, every service tends to have a service account. So Cloud Build uses a special service account, Cloud Build service account, to execute builds for you. And it is granted the Cloud Build service account role by default. And this role does everything you would expect a Cloud Build role to do. Builds, write logs, create pub subtopics, list projects, read code, access cloud storage. But often you will need more permissions. So there's a settings page in Cloud Build, which I might show you very quickly later. You can actually quickly just assign more permissions to your Cloud Build service account. And for more roles, you can use the default way, go to Cloud IAM and try to assign roles there. So right here, great, it has succeeded. So it has tried to run a migration. Anyone see this? Yeah, it's tried to run a migration, but there's nothing new to migrate, and it has tried to deploy to Cloud Run. And let's just prove to you that that thing works in Cloud Run. So tech jobs Rails. So this URL, it's probably going to be some cold start latency because it's Rails and it's because it's serverless. So hopefully it's not too bad. That's kind of bad. Okay, maybe let's just move on for now. Optimizing builds. So how can we speed up builds? I've shown you the Kaneko cache, and there's all these things that I'm going to try to walk you through. So Kaneko cache, we have already seen. Just use the Kaneko project canonical image instead of Docker build, and it will try to cache every layer. And of course, you should also try to build leaner containers. If your Docker file looks like this and you're loading this big thing called Gradle that you only need during a build time and not during runtime, then you should probably only include the things that you need for runtime in your Docker file. So instead of this, you should do all the Gradle stuff in a previous step, and then keep your Docker file really slim by only having the runtime stuff. So if running short of time, and I also run short of time to prepare the slides, but you can also do you can also use the cache from Docker itself. Basically, you're referring to a previously built image, and when you're trying to build a new one, just use cache from pointing to the old one to use the old one as a cache. And you can actually just save your build directory to Google Cloud Storage, zip it up, put it somewhere, and then in a new build, load the zipped files again, and you can use that as a cache. So that is also an option. I've shown you earlier, you can actually customize your machine type and avoid uploading unnecessary files, right? I mean, I think most of us won't be guilty of this. You probably don't commit your node modules in your Git repo. So in case you do, try not to upload everything into your Git repo. And finally, our Rails app has launched on Cloud Run. So this again is seeded data, same seed data as local environment. So once it's launched, it's pretty Cloud Run on Rails. Rails on Cloud Run is pretty snappy. It's just the initial phase that's not snappy. Okay, builder project. So very quickly, usually if you have a serious project with staging and production environments, what I like to do is have a dedicated Google Cloud project just to build stuff. And then I will give this Google Cloud build service account access to the corresponding products that it needs to deploy to in other projects. All right, time for Q&A, and I'll let Steven take it from here.
So hey Jonathan, so good talk. So I'm just gonna we have a couple of questions. So we do a quick one. We have a second speaker, Zaman is ready. So someone is looking for the link. Let me. Okay, Kamal, I have a question. Let me remove this. I saw something similar to Docker multi-stage build. You have anything to talk about that?
I've not heard of Docker multi-stage build.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So come on, next time you're gonna give a talk for that. All right, and I have a question as well. Is it possible to use Secret Manager instead of CloudMS? But I saw the slide you said it's possible, so I'm just gonna ignore this. And there's another one. I wonder, does Rails 6
Rails 6
have auth built in? So this not really.
Yeah, I think it has auth built in, but the thing is, you're not supposed to commit the key that you use to decrypt that secret. So somehow you will need something like Cloud KMS or Secret Manager, or the worst is you put your key in the environment variable in Cloud Build Trigger, but somehow you need to bridge that gap, right? You are not going to commit that secret to decrypt the Rails secrets file in your Git repo. I think this is a related question. I hope it answers.
So yep. So this is another one. Is the Ruby encrypted password file is also stored in the repo together? Most of the time, no, right?
I think the encrypted password file, I think by design, Rails wants you to commit that file into the Git repo because it's encrypted. It's meant to be like that. It's just optimized for developer productivity. It's a Rails decision. So whether or not it's actually safe in the real long run, I don't know.
Okay. So we have a last question. where will you store as a secret key of GCP to run the whole build? Like I think KMS Secret Manager, right?
Yeah, so
To answer
Cloud
your
Build has
question for
very
this.
close integration with Cloud KMS. You can create the key first in Cloud KMS and then encrypt your secrets file, and you can actually commit that secret, the encrypted secrets file into your Git repo. So once you start the build, you already have your encrypted secrets file there, and all you need now is to get the key and decrypt that file, and then now you have your secret. I'm also not sure whether we should be keeping the plain text secret file in the Docker image. I'm not sure if that's a thing, because that's what I did in this demo. I left the decrypted
Yep.
secret in the image. Whether or not that's good, please give your feedback. Yep.
Right. Okay. I think that's about it. I think so.
Cool.
We will continue whatever the rest is. We continue after the second speaker. So we keep your question coming. So thanks a lot, Jonathan. Just stay. We will bring you back
Thanks,
later.
everyone. Yep, sure.
All right. So next, we have Sharuzzaman. So I just want to intro your speaker too. So he's a senior consultant with Deloitte Malaysia. So he used to work AWS solution on a daily basis. He was previously in Austria, I believe. So, and I mean, previously we had a GCP guy. So now we have an AWS guy. So he can ask, compare, do whatever you want. But it's obviously different topics. This is about CloudWatch. So I asked him, so metrics is always something interesting to watch. So how to get a metrics, to understand how to come up with proper metrics to actually justify to the business and everything, right? So, Zaman, so I'll give it to you. So bring it on. I
Okay.
will.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Okay. Let me start the presentation. Okay. I hope everybody can see the presentation right now. Is it the full screen or the slideshow? Oh, okay, it's the slideshow. So hold on. Let me change this to. Hold on.
Zaman, I can do it for you. So you can just focus on the top.
Okay. So
So
it's
you
okay.
just,
I'm sharing the whole screen right now, so that it's easier for me to share
yeah,
the
I can.
screen. Yeah.
I can make it. So should be fine now. Cool.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now the presentation slide is up. Okay. So good evening, everyone. My name is Sharuzzaman. That's my email. If you want to contact me later on, you can send me an email. So basically, what's I'm going to share today is the Amazon Cloudwatch Metrics Math. So Amazon Cloudwatch. Before we continue with Amazon Cloudwatch, let me introduce about myself. So I'm working currently with Deloitte Consulting South Asia, Malaysia, in the cloud engineering team as a senior consultant. I'm an AWS certified engineer. Previously, I worked with AWS Support Center in Sydney, Australia, as DevOps cloud support engineer. And okay, so today's topic, tonight topic is about Amazon CloudWatch. So what is Amazon CloudWatch? It is an observability service by AWS to monitor the resources and application on AWS and also on your premise. So if you have your server running on your premise and somehow you have a connection to the AWS environment using, let's say, for example, Direct Connect or VPN, you can basically push your statistics or metrics to the CloudWatch, and then use CloudWatch as your one area to view your metrics in the AWS and also in your on premise. So it is a single platform across application and infrastructure. It covers Windows, it covers Linux, it covers all other services, S3, EC2, load balancers, and everything. It's one of the easiest way. You just need to run the agent if you run on a Windows or on Linux, and then that agent will do the necessary collection and then push the metrics. You use this to improve the performance because you can see which resources that is maybe consuming too much CPU, not enough memory, or something like that. And with the graphing capability, you can see the operational visibility, and you can get the logs from the CloudWatch logs itself. So as a sub part of the CloudWatch itself, there is a CloudWatch metrics. There is a CloudWatch metrics, and there is a CloudWatch logs, and the latest one is the CloudWatch insights. So we are going to focus on the CloudWatch metrics. So metrics are the data about the performance of the system, like I mentioned just now. So you can basically get metrics from your resources like EC2 instance, EBS volume, RDS, DB instance, load balancers, anything that is running in AWS itself. You can have a detailed monitoring, but usually detailed monitoring will have an extra charges. I believe the detailed monitoring up to per second, but I'm not really sure who are going to use the per second. Maybe some big corporation or company that is very sensitive to the downtime, they want to have the per second monitoring. And also with CloudWatch metrics, you can also push your own application metrics. For example, you want to push how fast your website is generating the front page. So you get that data, you get that number, you can basically put into your own application, PHP, Python, or whatsoever, and then push that number into the CloudWatch metrics, and you can see a graph there, like what is the average of front page generation performance of your application, and you don't have to use some other services in order to get the graphs. CloudWatch can load all the metrics in all your account for searching, for graphing, and also for setting up the alarms. And the data is capped for 15 months. So you basically can go back up to 15 months to see what is the trend of the data, whether your hard disk consumption is increasing all the time, your CPU consumption increasing, or your memory is fluctuating during certain time period, maybe during sales, during the Christmas, the CPU is high, memory is high, and you can see that from the graph. The next part of the CloudWatch metrics is actually the dashboard. So the dashboard is the part where you are putting all your graph, the little graph together, so that you can have a very nice one page that will show everything that is interest to you during that time. For example, you might want to have a dashboard according to location. Like for example, you have a 3 branch in Malaysia, one in JB, one in KL, one in Penang. So maybe you want to have a dashboard according to region, or you also maybe you want a dashboard that is according to all the CPUs for all the AWS instance, all the memory for the AWS instance, all the hard disk for the AWS instance. So you basically can customize the dashboard according to whatever your region, whatever your requirement, and the data that it can collect is actually across different region. You can put them all together. Okay, you can create a customized view of the metrics. This is where I'm going to show you about the CloudWatch Metrics Math, and how you can utilize the mathematic functionality of the CloudWatch metrics to get a much more interesting data from your graph. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a very simple dashboard. Okay. Okay, so this is basically a dashboard. So with this dashboard, you can draw whatever your graph here. For example, here I'm putting a memory utilization, and in this memory utilization, you can put whatever things that you want to be put here. So basically, if you can see here, the real data is actually the memory percent committed bytes in use, and I use the metric math to show the average standard deviation, the maximum, the second standard deviation, and the third standard deviation. And there is also the anomaly band in CloudWatch. And also this is one of the interesting thing where you can actually just search for all the metrics that is similar. Like for example, here I want to graph all the memories on my instance. So I don't have to search on my instance one by one. I just use the search functionality, and the search functionality will bring everything inside the whole same graph. Okay. So let's continue with the slide. Yeah, this is basically the simple dashboard that I shown you just now. Okay, now we are coming to the metrics math part. Okay, so metrics math enables you to query multiple CloudWatch metrics and use math expression, okay, to create new time series based on this metrics. So the metrics, the graph itself is a time series. Time series means that the data is according to specific time. So that's why it can draw the graph. Okay, you can visualize the resulting time series in the CloudWatch console and then add them to dashboard. Okay, what I'm doing before this is actually I just use the graph, and then when I already select the graph, I put together combine them together, and then I push them into the dashboard and then save the dashboard. Okay, so for example, in the AWS Lambda metrics, you can divide the error matrix by the invocation matrix to get an error rate. So you want to, that is not by default available, but you can do that using the math in order to get an error rate of your Lambda function. Then add the resulting time series to the graph on your CloudWatch dashboard. Okay, so for the dashboard itself, it has a data types. So if you go through the documentation of the CloudWatch metrics math, you will see this S, TS, and also TS with the bracket. So S basically scalar. Scalar is just a number. 25, 50.25, just a basic number. TS is a time series. For example, here CPU utilization for the last 1 hour, 3 hour, 15 months. So that whole thing, the data is a time series. So TS with a bracket is actually an array of time series. For example, if I search for CPU utilization for all my servers, I have 3 servers. So that data will be written as an array of time series. So one time series is for server 1, the other time series of second server 2, the third time series for the third servers. Okay, and it will become the time series array. So do take or do learn about this so that you can understand more when you exploring about the metrics math. So this is some of the metrics math function. There is a few more, but I'm haven't explored them that much. So I'm going to show you something that is much more usable and which you can use right away after this presentation. Like for example, the anomaly detection band, the average, the max, the minimum, the standard deviation, and also the sum. Okay, I'm going to focus more on the standard deviation. Okay, because this is something that why I managed to found this metric math, because this is part of my requirement recently in my current job, where the management wants to see how much is the graph or is the utilization of some resources, like for example memory is beyond the average of the one that commonly used by the servers. So what is standard deviation and why it is important? So STD def in the math formula is means standard deviation. So the definition for standard deviation is a quantity expressing by how much the member of a group differs from the mean value of the group. So in basic layman term, how far your data swing from your average. So you have an average, how far your data move from that average. And you can use the standard deviation to detect an outlier. Outlier means something that is peculiar or something that is not correct in your average use. So in first standard deviation, the percentage covered is actually 68%. So if you calculate first standard deviation, statistically 68% of all the data will be within that standard deviation. If you add a second standard deviation, it will cover around 95%. And on the third standard deviation, it will cover around 99.7%. So this is basically the graph itself. So the graph will show here that in the first standard deviation it covers 68%, in the second standard deviation it covers 95%, and in the third standard deviation it covers 99.7%. So this is the way you can use to detect the outlier or detect something that is not supposed to be happening in your environment. So this is where the metrics math hacks coming in, because most functions in the metrics math return scalar from time series. So for example, you have a time series of memory utilization, and when you calculate the standard deviation will give you a scalar, which is a single number. But how do you want to draw that single number as a straight line on your graph? So that you can see it straight away in your graph, rather than having another dashboard that's showing just the number. So yeah, so this is the basically the one that I'm telling you just now. So standard deviation is a time series, but the return type, let me show you the pointer. So it is a time series. The return type is a scalar. So the scalar cannot be drawn on the graph as a straight line. So in here it says using a function that return a scalar number is not valid, as all final result of expression must be a single time series or an array of time series. Instead, use this function as part of larger expression that return a time series. So I'm going to demo this later on how do you manipulate the graph so that you can see the average. So let's see this. So let's view in the metrics. Okay, hopefully it's loading. Okay, so yeah, this is a standard metrics for AWS Cloudwatch. You can change the type here, line to stack area to numbers. So if you change to numbers, basically you will get all these numbers, and this is the standard deviation that I said just now. The first standard deviation is 45.4, second is 32, third is 58.5. So but you cannot draw this in the graph by itself according to the line. So let's say I'm taking like a 3 hours graph or 12 hours graph. Okay, 12 hours graph is not that clear. Okay, let's say okay, 1 day graph. Okay, so here I got the average, which is the orange line. Standard deviation is the green line. The maximum is the red line. The purple is the second standard deviation. The brown is the third standard deviation. So how do I actually draw this? Because all this is actually a scalar and is just a single number. The idea is actually you manipulate the math itself. So for example, how do you want to draw the average? Is by actually you use the M1 and then you minus the M1. What will happen with this? You basically have the time series, but you don't have the data. Okay, M1 is the original memory data. So with M1, you minus with M1, you basically have 0, and then you add the average of M1. So when you add the average of M1, you basically get the time series, all the time series from start until the end, and then this time series will carry the value of the average, which is at this point of time is basically, let's say 40.71, the average. So the same idea is being utilized for the standard deviation, because you want the standard deviation to be more than your average. Is by M1 minus M1, you will get a time series without the data, and then you add the average, and then you add the standard deviation. So what happened is that your standard deviation will always be higher than your average. Okay, so your average is the orange, your standard deviation is green, your second standard deviation is purple, and your third standard deviation is brown. Okay, so that is the band. So this is the way that you actually, I can make it bigger. So this is actually the way you make it to draw the straight line into your graph, so that you can see the average, the standard deviation straight away from your graph. So you don't have to manually calculate it. It will auto calculate for you. Okay, so let's see how the standard deviation, second standard deviation, and third standard deviation going to help you. So in this case, you can see that the orange is the average, the green is the first standard deviation. You can see that statistically about 66% of all the data will be within this first standard deviation, and the second standard deviation is the purple. So you can see that these small things here, there is a spike. Then also this is also spike. So this two spike is actually beyond the 95% of the second standard deviation. And the third spike, which is the 99.7, if I remember the number correctly just now. So only this is actually, the last one is actually the one that going beyond the third standard deviation. So what is the purpose of this first standard deviation, second standard deviation, and third standard deviation? You can utilize this number, you make an average of all your servers, and with the standard deviation calculation, you can utilize it as the alarm threshold. For example, I don't want to handle these small matters, so I put on the third standard deviation. So if I put on the third standard deviation, I can start setting up my alarm for memory utilization in my system to be 65.70%, or rounded that to 70%. So anything goes beyond 70% will trigger an alarm for me. Anything less than 70% will not trigger any alarm to my email, for example. So this is a good way to have some kind like a data-driven conversation with your customers. Like when customers say how much or at what level that you start triggering an alarm. So with this kind of calculation, you can easily tell the customer, okay, based on the graph that we have right now, the third standard deviation is 60 here is 65.7, so we just rounded that up to 70. Whenever anything breach 70%, you will get a notification from AWS. So this is something that is much more easier to explain to your customers. Okay, so this is one part of the metrics math. So I'm going to show you a different one. Okay, this is the anomaly band. So what is an anomaly band? So anomaly band is basically capabilities in AWS Cloudwatch, where the anomaly band you can it will do an automatic calculation of the potential that the graph or the data will breach a certain threshold. Okay, let's say I put on a 3 days. So when I put on the 3 days and the average is 5 minutes, you can see that all these red colors, okay, it's still loading. Okay, all these red colors is actually going out of the band. So anything that is going out of the band can be used to trigger an alarm. Okay, but in this case, the band is basically very short. It's not really a good indicator because you will get a lot of alarm in this kind of band. But if your graph is basically stable, I can show you this kind of graph. Okay. Okay, so this kind of graph, basically the graph is basically stable. So anything that goes outside the band can be used to trigger an alarm. So this is a good way actually to not having a specific level of alarm that will be triggered, but as soon as there is something change in the environment, then the alarm will be triggered. Okay, for example, in this one. So this band you can set on your own or you can just use straight away from the alarm whenever you create the alarm. Whenever you create the alarm, you will have the opportunity to set a static numbers like 60%, 70%, or you can use the anomaly bands. But I'm just showing you the anomaly band here so that you can see then that there is another option rather than setting a fixed numbers into the Cloudwatch metrics. Okay, and the third part that I'm going to show is actually the search capabilities. So as I mentioned earlier, if you have, let's say, 100 servers, do you want to select one by one into your graph so that you can have a CPU graph or memory graph or whatever graph that you want? You don't have to do that. Basically, you can use a search capability. So search metrics. The search will you will put the kind of like the identifier for the data, which is, for example, in this graph is the CPU utilization. So it used the CW agent. No, this is the memory utilization. So the CW agent, image ID, instance ID, and then instance type, and then object name, and then the matrix name is memory percent committed bytes in use with the statistic of average in 5 minutes. So it might be hard to find all this line by yourself, but what you can do is actually you just need to do something like this. Okay, so you go back to the all metrics. Let's remove everything here. You go back to all metrics. Okay, you go to, let's say, Cloudwatch agent, and this is the identifier. You can add search. So when you add to search here and you graph the search will basically find all your instance that match the same identifier, which is have a CW agent, image ID, instance ID, instance type, whatsoever, and this is as the E1 graph. So this E1 graph is basically the collection of all the CPUs, all the memories that you have in your all your systems. So you have the blue one, which is the first instance, Windows 1. The orange one is the instance for the second server. So if you have thousands of servers or hundred of servers or thousands of servers, this basically can help you to generate the graph very fast rather than adding manually one by one. Okay. So another thing that is interesting about the Cloudwatch metrics is that you can manipulate the graph according to your requirement. For example, I'm showing you this graph here. Okay. Okay, it's loading. Okay, this is CPU utilization. I'm not showing the CPU utilization. I'm showing the disk utilization. Okay. So the disk utilization. Okay. This is something quite weird with Windows statistics, because in Windows statistics for disk is actually giving you a free space. It's not space that you consume. Okay, so if you graph your free space, okay, let's graph the free space. So you basically have this purple line at the bottom here. So it basically shows you that you have 20.3% of this space left. It's not that you are consuming 20.3, but because the other metrics like CPU, like memory, the higher the number, it means that the higher your consumption and you want to trigger when it goes higher. But for the Windows disk is percentage free space, so you want to trigger when it goes lower. So sometimes it will be hard for you to change your kind of thinking to from using the disk to lower and then CPU and memory to higher. But you can basically manipulate the data here by just using the metric math, which is you have the original data at M1, and then you want to change it to become the percentage disused instead of percentage free by just minus from 100. So we remove this, or we hide that. So we minus 100 to the M1, which is the original data, and what you will get, you basically get the blue line. So the blue line is basically the percentage of disused. Okay, so instead of you have 20% left, now you are using 73% of your disk. And from this data of the E1, you can basically do all the other metrics that you like to do, like the average, the maximum, the standard deviation, based on the data that you have manipulated, not the original. So the original you manipulate to something, and then from the one that you have manipulated, you do your metric math. So this is much more easier to understand because to the customer, because customer will just see that, okay, the higher thing that you use, the higher the number, something is wrong with that utilization. Okay. I'm checking how many minutes that I have. 5 more minutes. Okay, about 3 more minutes. Okay, so what else? Okay, let's see. Okay, no more slides, but I'm going to show you the graph here. This utilization, CPU utilization. So this CPU utilization also, like I'm using the search for it, and then the memory utilization is the one that I'm doing much math inside here. So here you can see that when you put in 1 hour, when the graph is basically much more flat, then you can see that the band is actually much more tolerable, and you are not breaching this kind of band. Okay, so what you can do after this is actually to go to the documentation, read more about the anomaly detection, read more about the search expression, and also the generic part of the Cloudwatch graph, and how you can use the function, the syntax, the comparison, and everything for the metric math. And I hope this going to help you with your graph, so that you can have a much more meaningful data rather than just a spike of up and down in your graph. Maybe for your managers, or for your own teams. Okay. Yep, Devon.
All right, it's good. Thank you so much, Zan. So this was a really good one. So I'm just gonna make it to 2 people, and we're gonna take some questions. So first one.
Okay.
So we can view all the region in one dashboard.
Yes, you can view all the region in one dashboard. You can basically use the graph from different region and put into one region in for example Singapore. There is no problem with that.
Okay, pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite straightforward. So
Yep.
okay, so this one for me actually. What's the right way to get a right metric? Any formulas or guide we can rely on for the graph?
Okay, so this is what I mentioned just now. That is the same question that I asked myself, and also I asked in a few groups. What is the rule, or what is the formula that you want to get the correct graph? So basically, standard deviation is one of the best mathematical function that is able to show you the swing of your data. So from there you can basically see what is the metrics that your system is actually having, and from there you can see the first standard deviation, second standard deviation, and third standard deviation, and from there you can see at what level you should start putting your alarm. Like for example, in the one that I shown just now, the average is 65, so let's put it on 70, something like that.
I see. Okay. So because the reason I asked, right, is do we have any more questions? No. Okay, I think we can just carry on while waiting for any other questions.
Okay.
So the reason I asked is because every company have a different kind of metrics, like and you want to integrate with like full observability and like for the application itself, right? Like how is this application running? When is the metric? What's the CPU? How much it costs? Even the metric for the cost itself, right? Based on the
Yep.
GPU usage, everything. I know some companies what they do, like they shut down on the weekends and they start it again the servers on the weekdays. So these are kind of stuff or metrics that we put in and try to put it on one, visualize it on one huge beautiful display, because that's the only thing that the boss understands, right?
Yep. Agreed.
Yep. So do you have any tips on that? Like, or do you any way to do that? Like, is it we can push it to for example, visualization to Grafana or Data Studio, or maybe we can start the metrics. Do we have to do our own calculation based on that or something?
For AWS, there is a services that you can. For example, if you are really concerned about cost, there is a I believe. Let me find something here. Cost optimizer, something like that. Yeah, there is a
Okay.
cost explorer. There is a AWS budget. There is
Cost
also
Metric Explorer, right?
yeah. So that system is basically the one that doing the calculation on your behalf, and also some of it, some of the service, I didn't remember which one, have the projection. So it will give you the projection that if you keep using at this level of compute memory or RDS or S3 bucket, by the end of the month you will be paying around these numbers. So if you don't want to reach that numbers, you start doing something like, for example, your S3, you move to Glacier so that you pay less. For your compute, maybe you buy the 1 year subscription rather than using the on demand. For example,
this is basically a cloud optimization, right? So do this, to do this, we need a metric, like build metric, and then we make a decision based on the metric, right?
Yes.
Like based on the usage. Okay.
Yes.
So
Correct.
Jonathan have a question, so maybe I can add him as well. Like,
Sure.
hello, Jonathan. So he asking, can you avoid E1 minus E1 plus ABG bracket E1? Why not just ABG E1 again? So I don't know what he's asking, but yeah.
Okay. I understand the question. Okay. What happened is that AVG, if you do the AVG E1, E1 is the time series. So it has the time and it has the data. So if you average the time series, you average 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until 10. And when you average, you basically got the numbers only. You don't get the time anymore. But if you want to draw on the graph, you need the time. You need to put, like, for example, 1 hour ago, this is the number. 30 minutes ago, this is the number. 5 minutes ago, this is the number. But where is the time? The time is lost. So in order to stay or get the time and putting an artificial number into the time, so that's why you put the E1 minus E1. So when you put the E1 minus E1, so the original data you minus by itself, you basically got a zero, the time series of zeros. And then you add the average on top of that time series. So that time series become a new time series for the average. That's why you got the E1 minus E1 plus average E1.
You lost me at E1, but Jonathan should understand that.
Okay.
This is something that I need to check, look up and like
linear algebra stuff.
Yeah. Because this is the question that I'm facing some issue. I think about last month when I tried to do the graph. I said I got the average number, but how do I draw the graph line on top of the graph itself? Because the number is actually a scalar, it's not a time series. So that got me thinking that, okay, what if I got the original data and I minus the original data? Basically, the data will become zero, but I still have the time, and then I put on top of that time the average, and that average will draw a straight line of the average numbers using the original time series. So that's where the ideas of using that coming in, and from there I start exploring, like using the average, standard deviation, second standard deviation, third standard deviation, and exploring much more using the band and everything. So that is something that I found out that is quite interesting with the math itself.
Yep. Now you're telling this, honey, I'm very interested to checking that out further. All right. Yep. So I have another one guy asking a question like, what's
Do we
Ahmed?
have to
Do we have
measure? Yeah, you have to measure all the metrics, or if use several metrics is already sufficient. It's up to you. It's up to your managers. If up to your boss. How much
management?
data? Yeah, how much data that you want to present to them. If they just want the CPU utilization, they want the memory utilization, they want the disk utilization, just give them whatever they want. But if they
Yep.
ask something like, okay, uh, um, last week somebody calling our support saying that our website page load is very slow. Can we have something to show that in a continuous basis, like in a graph? Then during that time, then you have to create something on your own, like the custom metrics, where when your application is generating the page, you get the numbers from start until the finish, and then you push that numbers into Cloudwatch, and then you start graphing that numbers, and then you can show your boss if somebody call saying that the web page is loading slow. You can show your boss saying that no, our graph shows that is load within less than 1 second. If that is slow for him, maybe it's his internet connection, not our server that is
Local
slow.
ISP.
Yeah, yeah,
So she's having one of the issues.
yep, yep.
So yep. So okay, I think if I don't see any more questions. So what I'm gonna do is like, if people want to stay, just post a comment, and while we're just having a conversation, like simple conversation, like every day, like in a mama or something. So
Okay.
you want to jump in, ask any question, people can join. So we still have people watching it. And have a like earlier going to the earlier question, right? So there's Kamal asking, you want to be in a dev or ops? Tricky
In
question.
my, yeah, in my opinion, it's actually what you think you can do best. For example, in for myself, before this I'm a system administrator. I'm a Linux system administrator, but I'm thinking that I cannot just stay as a system administrator for long, because the cloud environment is going up. A lot
Evolving.
of company, yeah, evolving. A lot of company using cloud, and that's why when I got the opportunity to join AWS last time, I take the opportunity, because I believe that is the good opportunity for me to jump into the DevOps environment on the ops side, and also learn the cloud at the same time.
Basically to the brighter side.
Yes, yes, yes. So
How about you,
it's up to
Jonathan?
you actually.
Uh, I've been a dev, but now I choose neither. I choose to be solutions architect or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm trying to go to. Maybe that's in between. Ops will definitely always be, whether you're dev or architect, ops is something like 20% of the time you just have to deal with ops.
Yep,
You
agreed.
have to understand
Alright.
it no matter what you do. So
Mm-hmm.
if you ask me, ops is just
You
everyone's
can't you can't run away from the
lowest
ops.
common denominator. You just have to know some ops, right?
Yep.
Dev, you want to deploy stuff, you need ops.
Mm-hmm.
Architect, you need to know how the pipeline works, you need ops.
Yep, agreed.
Alright.
So do learn ops. Dev, yeah, I think most of us here start from dev, so I don't think we need to comment much on that. Can you jump straight to ops? I don't know how. Maybe yeah, maybe if like
I think
Zaman, you come
some
from
people
a
do that.
system admin side or networking
Mm-hmm.
side. Yeah,
Yep.
system admin networking side, you don't have to. You can skip the whole dev part, right?
Yeah. Not really actually, but at one point of time you still need the dev part. For example, even if you are managing your own server as a system administrator, at one point you might need to do a lot of automation in order to speed things up, to reduce errors when you do deployment or something like that. So that's where the dev parts come in. You need to learn bash scripting. You need to at least learn some Python or Ruby, or any kind of scripting language that can help you to automate a lot of your tasks day-to-day basis. And if you are in ops and somehow you got the dev exposure, then starting to use all the AWS services or GCP services, like the cloud build and something like that, that will be much more easier for the ops guy, because they already understand the dev parts. Like for example, what is the shell script that you need to put in the container when you want to launch it. If you don't know anything about the command, the exit code or whatsoever in that part, it will be very hard for the ops guy to use cloud services to consume whatever services that is available on the internet right now.
Correct. There's a
Yeah,
lot
but
of
you don't
choices
get to
now,
go
right?
into the deep end of the dev,
Yes,
like
yes, yes.
React or
Yeah. You
Go or
you don't
something.
need to understand algorithm or whatsoever encryption,
Yeah.
deep encryption,
Yeah,
something like
And
that.
there's a middle ground, overlap,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
like a full-blown code
Single
application,
page
right? Like
app.
deploy, yeah,
Yep.
single or I mean, they have everything nowadays. Like some of the coding stuff is taken over by the cloud as well, right?
Yep.
So it's like I think the direction is the industry is going is to less code and more
Mm-hmm.
like how fast you can spin it up and how fast
No
it
code,
takes
is
for you
it?
to maintain it.
Are you a
Yeah.
no? That's the next
No, I'm
question.
not.
Are you a
I'm
no? What do you think about no code?
oh man, it's a tricky question. Okay, for me, if you're in a corporate, if you want to be in a corporate and then you want to like spin up very fast, or in a startup, you want to create a very fast MVP in 1 day or 2 days. No code is like to prove a PIC, right? Prove a concept. I mean PLC, prove a concept. No code is like really fast to do it and deploy it, and just to
Yep.
show the boss, okay, this work, everything work, this can be done, and then you can to properly do as a full blown application. That's a different story altogether with the product. Like you can basically you prove a concept so it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I think it works very well for internal processes, especially
Yep.
when you want to face prototype, maybe like beta customers. But
correct.
once you want to full on B2C, I don't
Yep.
think no code will tahan lah.
Work.
1 star lah, you get 1 star all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even now you're using a React Native application, right? But when the application is taking a lot of load, with the users abusing the app, right? Everything, right? Means abusing is people are using it extremely, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
pretty much you are screwed as well. Like you still need to go back to native.
Yep. Agreed.
So
Use Flutter.
if you did, yeah, if you didn't optimize the application properly, you still have to go back to the native.
Yep.
So end of the day, like, yeah, it's still the same story lah. So it depends on the use case, everything. So, yep, I think it's already 10. So I probably like maybe we can discuss one more point. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so where do you think DevOps in Malaysia is going? What do you think? Like, where's the direction? And the most is do most of the company in Malaysia do even understand what's DevOps? And are they doing properly their DevOps practices?
So who's first? AWS first? Okay. AWS.
They lead the market, so they go first.
Yeah. The recent experience that I have is that when there is a headhunter is looking for people, like the idea is DevOps, the most of the time the idea of for them DevOps is mostly to the development side, not the real DevOps or the ops side. So from what I can see right now in Malaysia, when people talk about DevOps, it's more towards the dev side of the whole DevOps rather than the dev and the ops or the ops itself.
It's
So
like development for the IEC or something, or development of
yeah,
internal
they want to
optimization,
they,
CI/CD.
they want
Okay.
to find a developer, but this developer need to know a lot of ops kind of tools like CI/CD tools. In AWS, maybe code build, code pipeline, code something, blah blah
Mm.
blah. So that is the DevOps part of the DevOps that they're looking. They are looking for programmers who can utilize that tools rather than finding a DevOps people who basically can do dev and do ops at the same time. That's
Yep,
my
get it.
opinion. Yep.
Yep. I mean, I don't disagree with it. Actually, I agree with that. So, yep. Jonathan, do you have anything? I mean, your turn.
Well,
GCP,
I
Google Drive.
live in GCP land. My argument is most companies shouldn't need DevOps unless you are 100-man, big company.
Mhm.
I think I showed today Cloud Build how much you can do. Yes, you will need your software engineer to roll up sleeves and go into Cloud Build for 1 or 2
Yep.
days.
Mhm.
And after that, right, it's really a set and forget, right?
Yep.
You want
Not
to
really.
tweak something
I would
down the
disagree
road.
with
Yeah,
that.
you come back to it. You come back
Yep.
to your Cloud Build and tweak. Definitely not done, but for the moment, it is done. So I think most like small and medium companies, if they are hiring for DevOps, I think something is really wrong, lah. Especially if
correct,
you're
I
using
agree.
GCP, like with tools like that. If you need a DevOps engineer, I think you should review your, yeah, maybe Azure. You know, Tivan is actually a DevOps guy, right? Azure is
Yeah,
big enough, complicated enough. Yes,
Mhm.
they
Yep.
use a lot of stuff that is not
we are very small team, man.
GCP serverless. But they are also very small teams. So yeah, if your DevOps team is like 1 dozen people, I don't know, man. It's like something is really wrong, lah. I think, lah.
Yep, I agree. I agree. So I mean,
Yeah.
coming back to the question, right? Two questions. One is for you, startups or small companies require DevOps. What I noticed, right? When I talk to the conversation with the CTO, the engineering, they actually requiring they taking the other side of the coin for the DevOps, which is coming in and making change, be agile, increasing the
Mhm.
agile process. So
Yep.
they come in that side. So they, because they're pretty small, but they've been old school, so they come in and try to make the change, they educate the developers, the current infrastructure, whatever, right, and modify, make modernization of it, and educate like at the same time. So that's, I feel that's what they need. So most to the infra side most of the time. That's what I get it. And for Cloudwheel, yeah, Cloudwheel is nice to use and everything, but that's when then when you have a GitLab or self-hosted, you'll be in trouble.
Yeah.
It's
Good
personal
luck.
experience. So we push it to I made it like okay, from mirror from a GitLab to a GC source repo on Google, and then from source
Of
repo you
course.
take it up and
Yeah.
push it in.
I think
So
that's the
that's works.
best way.
So that's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is, it's always it can come up with any idea, everything. But end of the day, someone out there need to maintain it.
Yep. Yep. Agreed.
Yep. So we can build whatever we want, but if you don't maintain it properly, and then it's gonna screw up and it's still back to square one.
Yep.
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 I think yeah. So that's what I'm saying last night. And
Mhm.
then another question is, what is DevOps for you? What do you think is DevOps? Like, seems like I'm interviewing you guys, man.
What is DevOps? Wow.
What is DevOps? What is DevOps for you? Like, okay, let's Jonathan. You go first, PCP
Okay.
guy.
Okay. To me, DevOps is anything but writing application code. You know, UI or API. Even managing a database is already close to DevOps. Well, but that's DBA lah. You know, that's
Mhm.
another.
Okay.
To me,
Yep.
DevOps is everything but writing code and building an app. You know,
Okay.
once the app is in container, everything you do with the container is DevOps already.
Yep.
Take the container and throw anywhere you like. That's DevOps. That's to me
Yep.
lah. Simple definition. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Get it.
Yeah.
You, Zaman?
For me, I would see the DevOps as a culture, because that is the problem that we are facing right now, especially with the customers, especially customers that is coming from a traditional environment. What I can say that the most of the government customers doesn't care which government, which countries that they coming from. They are already accustomed to the traditional way of doing things, setting up servers, deploying application, developing application. So when there is
And
a
with their very
cloud
old
coming
school
in,
security team.
yeah, when there is an cloud coming in, and cloud was given to them, they still use the same methodology of the old style, and then they try to bring it into the cloud, which is
Yep.
for me is not really correct. It's not the best practice. So that's why I say that cloud DevOps is the culture that we need to educate these people, like, okay, this is actually the way that you must follow, or this is the best practice you should follow in order to get your application from the traditional way into the cloud environment, which is much more agile, much more flexible. You don't need to put 1 terabyte hard disk in one go in your VM. You can just start with 30 GB and then expand it later on. They don't have that kind of idea about that flexibility. So that's why I said DevOps is a culture that we need to educate people, and
Correct.
on how to
In the
utilize it correctly in the organization.
organization level
Yep.
itself. Yep. I get what you mean. So I mean, again, like, so I think both of you guys not wrong. So but for Jonathan, I think there's a new thing coming out as well, like a DevOps as a service. So that requires coding. So building a like service yourself, like IAM, everything, automating it, making a DevOps as a service, like people asking for requests. Another additional part of the DevOps as well, I noticed Actually, for me, I don't know the answer. That's why I'm asking you guys. So every time I ask different people, have different answers. So so another
Ask
thing is,
Google
well,
also, first 5 result all different one.
all right. So that's the thing, right? So what's the right answer for that? So okay, what I want to say again? Like, forgot already. So okay, DevOps. You okay? Basically, what I say is DevOps also involves a very powerful position. So what you need is you can do a buy-in for the with the management level. Like you for to help the developer, and basically you need to empower the developers and the ops side, wherever side, right? As long as it increase the agile, increase the efficiency,
Yep.
you can actually so brought up a new tool, new POC or way of process works. You simplify it. If and then you have the buy-in or from the management, right? That usually is led by the DevOps too. I believe so, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think yeah, it's very good conversation. So do you guys have anything else to add in?
Nope, nothing from me.
Yeah, Jonathan.
I think in an ideal world where people use GCP, ideal world,
Yeah.
I think DevOps is just something very far down the line. You should just start off using the managed stuff, as managed as possible.
Yep.
Correct.
And if you are building a SaaS or startup today and you're talking about DevOps from day one, I think you are probably over engineering it, or you should just try to use something managed first. And DevOps is like leave it for day 1.5 or 2
I
or
think
something like that.
I think to simply put it, Jonathan, your answer, right? You don't use GKE or Kubernetes for everything.
Yes, please don't use Kubernetes for your startup. Cloud Run
Yeah.
maybe, App Engine if
Yeah.
there's bigger
Yep.
pocket.
So that actually makes sense for more people to put it that way. Don't
Yeah.
use GKE for everything.
Some people will say DevOps is Kubernetes, just managing the whole thing.
True. Some people say that, and some say, oh, blockchain is a part of DevOps as well. So
Hmm.
it's all about the trending word, the buzzword out there, right? So that's what the recruiter love it. I think that's one of the recruiter, I think, from local company posted DevOps React Native. And everyone's like going, like, what is this DevOps React Native? What is for?
Yeah.
I think I posted that on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And then the guy actually removed it, asked the recruiter to remove it at all. So
I think they
That's
removed
when
it.
that is the part that I mentioned that when they look for DevOps, they look for developers actually. They're not really looking for DevOps people.
correct.
Yeah.
But actually, 80% of the time, they are really looking for DevOps people. It's just,
You
like
don't know.
yellow company. I don't know why.
It's just the
Yeah.
recruiter, so I mean that's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
But I also know that some teams have like about 60 people for DevOps, 60, 70 people in that's a
Wow.
DevOps team.
What are they
But
doing?
different teams, like one infra, one is the buying stuff, and one just for ops, and some part for R&D, for SRE and R&D side. So it's really depends on the objective for the
I think
company,
once you
right?
have microservices, you just have to have DevOps already. It's the way it's structured.
Yep.
That's too
I mean,
bad.
I feel like everyone's now going against microservices nowadays. Like microservice was fun and easy to use last time, but now looking at it, like, maybe it's not a good idea.
You need DevOps to be the glue for microservice.
Yep, I agree. And do it proper way, lah. Like, okay, all right. I think that's about it. It's getting late as well. Like, all right, thank you. We still have like 20 plus people still. Okay, they're still listening to what the crap we are talking. I'm impressed.
Mama.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we thought teh tarik lah. All right, guys. I think that's about it. You guys just stay in the car. I'm gonna end now. Thank you so much for joining. Any feedback, let
Okay.
us know. Like reach out to us. And anything, just drop by in the engineers MY Slack group and say whatever you want. You don't like me, just say it as well. If you want something, new topic, new speaker, whatever topic you want, talk to us. We try to help. If you want to looking for a job, so come there. So maybe find someone there looking to hire as well. So you
Ewan
never
will
know.
help you.
Not me. I wish I get paid for everything. Okay. I think all right, guys. Thank you so much. Do you guys have anything else, John and Raslan?
Yeah, it's
Nope.
been fun.
Nothing else.
Yeah.
Yep.
See you guys around.
All right. Cool.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Yep.
eat it. Bye, guys.
Bye.